Hi everyone. I'm going to present my work on enriched experiences, how enriched experience increase the symmetrical connectivity and sparsity in association cortex. This work was done in Bruce McNaughton lab at UC Irvine. So the question I'm primarily interested in asking is, what is the differences in population activity and underlying connectivity between a knowledge-rich and a naive brain? So if you look at work from convolutional neural network or artificial neural network, what happens as the network learn more and more, there is typically an increase in sparsity and orthogonality. And then in a separate line of work, we showed that as there is this increase in orthogonality, the network sort of learns new information much faster. So does this hold for a biological brain? So how do we go and create a knowledge-rich animal, and how do we test this question in animals? So what we did was we took mice that were relatively younger, so think of them as a teenager equivalent, and made them run on either a control track on the left or an enriched track. And what you can see on the enriched track on the right is these animals were exposed to a lot of different objects and a new obstacle configuration for 10 weeks. And so they're sort of exposed to different sensory modality inputs and so on. And the idea is to sort of send this animal to a university and make them knowledge rich. And then we did high density silicon probe recording from retrospinal cortex, visual cortex. So today I'm going to mainly show data from retrospinal cortex. And I focus mainly on awake rest and slow wave sleep. That's when memory replay is happening and presumably the brain is sort of exploring its state space. So the first thing I computed was population sparsity using this measure, which basically sort of computes how non-uniform the activity is for different time bins at a population level. The same thing, you can also compute something called lifetime sparsity, where you can ask, like, given a neuron, how variable its activity is across the entire duration of recording. So what we noticed, so here I'm showing enriched, I'm showing lifetime sparsity for 15-hour long recording chunked in 3 hours bin. The greenish hue is the enriched animal, and then the black grayish is the control track animal. And so what we observed was enriched animal generally had higher sparsity as compared to the control. And so there was a general trend of enriched animals showing higher sparsity, and this was more prominent in the deeper layers of the retrospinal cortex. Same for lifetime sparsity, there's just more sparsity in the enriched animal. And the next thing I computed was cosine distance, which is, think of it as a measure of orthogonality. So again, enriched animal brain, the neural activity was much more further apart. So these are the changes in population activity. Next, we asked, well, what about the underlying connectivity? So what one can do is, given this pair of recording, you can compute cross-correlograms. So if you have a monosynaptic excitatory connection, there's a peak between 1 to 4 milliseconds, so that's EE1. If it's a reciprocal connection, you have peaks on both sides. If it's an inhibitory connection, there's usually a dip in cross-correlogram. So what we noticed was in enriched animal, there's an increase in reciprocal connectivity, which is EE2, even though the total number of excitatory connection is similar. And then there is an increase in inhibitory connection. So we modeled this, and we used this model from Claudia Klopat's lab, and the idea is that when the brain is operating in this high inhibition regime, what it can do is it might keep the weight changes restricted to the cell assembly that were used in learning or whatever novel experience, and maybe that's what sort of leads to this increase in reciprocal connectivity and so on. So just to conclude, I showed that there's an increase in sparsity and orthogonality, and my thinking about that, given a lot of manifold people here, is that maybe as we get knowledge rich, there's this sort of increase in sparsity to sort of encode for these large repertoire of experiences that the enriched brain is learning, and then there is this increase. There's this increase in orthogonality, which sort of is pushing the representation further away. And then these changes are brought about by the underlying changes in connectivity, such as increase in this reciprocal or recurrent connectivity and increase in inhibitory connection. With that, I would like to thank everyone, and feel free to ask me any question if you have. Thank you.